Down at the town dump early in the morning, see all the rubbish lying on the ground. Along comes the dozer, revving up its engine. Smash, crash, bump, crunch, and shoves it all around.
What does your family game night look like these days? Is it some epic strategy game that takes an hour just to set up? Or maybe one of those party games you play on your phone? The 1970s were a golden age for board games, the last hurrah for that kind of old-school family fun before video games changed everything. And while you definitely remember the classics, there's a whole world of forgotten games that were just too strange, too specific, or maybe even too controversial to make it to today. So, today we're unboxing 7 of the weirdest and most inventive board games from the 1970s that you totally forgot existed. Kicking things off at number 7, we've got a game that bottled a full-blown 70s cultural moment, Breaker 19, the CB Truckers game. Released by Milton Bradley in 1976, this game puts you right in the driver's seat of a big rig during the absolute peak of the CB radio craze. The 1973 oil crisis had turned truckers into folk heroes who used their radios to find gas and avoid speed traps, and hit songs like C.W. McCall's Convoy made their lingo famous.
He's 10 on the floor, stroking bores, seat cover starting to gain. Now Beaver, you were trucking with a rubber duck, and I'm about to pull a plug on your drain.
Opening this box is like cracking open a time capsule. The art is pure 70s gold, with a classic Kenworth truck and a woman in a sedan sporting her own CB antenna. The goal? Be the first trucker to deliver your cargo, rake in $2,500 and pay off your rig. You draw Keep On Truckin' cards for your assignments and use CB radio cards to learn the slang and help yourself or mess with your buddies. It was a perfect snapshot of Americana. But like the CB fad itself, the game's appeal didn't last. Once the craze faded, the game became a forgotten relic. Next up at number 6 is a game with a premise so odd you have to wonder how it ever got greenlit. Get ready for Town Dump. Released by Ideal in 1977, this game wasn't about being a hero or building an empire, it was about garbage. Yeah, seriously. The whole point was to get rid of your trash by shoving it into your opponent's yard. The star of Town Dump is its little wind-up bulldozer. You'd rev it up and send it plowing into a pile of plastic trash, tires, tree stumps, and oil drums, hoping to push it over to your rival's side. The first player to clear their side of the dump wins. It's a game that teaches the very questionable lesson of just making your problems someone else's. It was also famously tough to play. The bulldozer was so underpowered, it could barely move the pieces, making for a slow, frustrating game. Town Dump is a true 70s oddity, and perfect proof that back then you could make a board game about literally anything. At number 5, we're diving into fantasy with a game that was a blatant and frankly hilarious attempt to cash in on a literary giant. This is Quest of the Magic Ring. Released in the mid-70s, this game was so obviously inspired by The Lord of the Rings, it's a miracle it didn't get sued out of existence. D&D had just launched, fantasy was exploding, and this game wanted a piece of the action without paying for the license. The box opens to reveal a beautiful map of a world that is definitely not Middle-earth, but feels suspiciously like it. You've got the Crack of Fire instead of the Cracks of Doom, and you play as the Ranger instead of Aragorn. Players of the Fellowship team had to get the ring to the Crack of Fire, while the evil players tried to capture the ring bearer. It was a very early attempt at a fantasy adventure game, but it was walking a legal tightrope. The very first unpublished edition even used direct references like Hobbit, which were quickly changed to generic terms in later editions to avoid copyright trouble. It's a fascinating footnote in the history of fantasy gaming. Our number 4 spot goes to a game that was ripped straight from the headlines, capturing all the anxiety of a global crisis. Say hello to Petropolis. Released by Pressman in 1976, this was a game about becoming a mega-rich oil tycoon during the 1970s oil crisis. It was even marketed as a luxury item, sometimes sold in a fancy green leather attaché case to make it feel like a serious, high-stakes game. At its heart, Petropolis was basically a Monopoly knockoff. Instead of buying properties, you bought oil rights in real-world countries. Instead of houses and hotels, you built oil derricks and platforms. The game pieces were these beautifully crafted gold tokens shaped like oil rigs and tankers. The goal was simple: end up with the most petrodollars. It was a game that turned a real-world economic disaster into a family fun night. But once the panic of the oil crisis faded from the news, so did the game's relevance, leaving Petropolis as a beautiful, forgotten artifact of the 70s. Coming in hot at number 3, there is a game of pure, unfiltered sabotage. This is Stay Alive. First published by Milton Bradley in 1971, this was marketed as the ultimate survival game, and for once, the ads weren't lying. This game could end friendships. The game is a plastic grid with sliding levers underneath. Each player puts their colored marbles on the board, and on your turn, you move a slider. The trick is that the sliders are full of holes, and with every move, you're trying to open a chasm under your opponent's marbles, sending them plummeting out of the game. The only rule is you can't move the same slider the last player just moved. It's a brilliant, vicious mix of strategy and chaos, creating this incredible tension where one wrong move could wipe you out completely. Despite being brutally fun, Stay Alive never quite became an icon like other dexterity games. For those who played it, it's remembered as a simple but savage game of survival. Our runner-up at number 2 is a game so strategic and authentic it was co-designed by someone who actually lived it. This is Escape from Colditz. Released in 1973, this game simulates the real-life escape attempts of Allied POWs from the infamous Colditz Castle during World War II. And what makes it so incredible is that one of its designers was Pat Reed, a British officer who actually escaped from Colditz himself. This game is a brilliant cat-and-mouse experience. One player is the German security officer, trying to stop any escapes. The other players are Allied escape officers, working to gather an escape kit with things like rope, wire cutters, and German uniforms. Then you have to plot a route out, all while trying to avoid the guards. The game was a huge hit, helped by a popular BBC TV series about Colditz that was on at the time. It came packed with amazing historical details like replicas of documents from the real prison. But its complexity was a bit much for some families, and it often ended up gathering dust. For strategy lovers, though, it remains an immersive and iconic classic. And now, the number 1 most bizarre, unforgettable, and downright unbelievable board game from the 1970s is The Sinking of the Titanic. Yes, you heard that right. Released by Ideal in 1975, this game took one of the greatest tragedies of the 20th century and turned it into a competitive family game. The tagline was literally, "The game you play as the ship goes down, then face the peril of the open sea." The board itself was a mechanical wonder. It was built in 2 parts, and as the game went on, the ship on the board would physically tilt and sink, flooding sections of the board turn by turn. The game had 2 phases. First, you'd race around the deck trying to grab food, water, and passenger tokens before the ship went under. Then you had to scramble for a lifeboat. Phase 2 started after the ship was submerged. Now you were adrift at sea, competing to be the first lifeboat to reach a rescue ship. Unsurprisingly, the game was controversial even back then for its macabre theme. It was eventually rebranded in some places as Abandoned Ship to tone it down, but the damage was done. The Sinking of the Titanic is the perfect storm of 70s game design. Mechanically clever, thematically fearless, and in hindsight, in seriously questionable taste. That was our top 7, but we know we missed some. What forgotten board game is gathering dust in your attic? Let us know in the comments below what bizarre games you played. We'd love to hear about them. And if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, make sure to like and subscribe for more retro deep dives. Thanks for watching.